Hey, it's Phil from Android Central.
Adam from crackberry.com.
Derek from Pre-Central.
And Renee from Tippy.com. And welcome to Mobile Nations, our everything mobile. Everyone gets together, round table, talks a lot, disagrees, and ends up in some sort of pro wrestling match over minutia in mobile. Phil, how are you doing today?
It's been a busy week. It's been a busy day.
I think this is going to be the second of 3 podcasts you're doing this week.
Yeah, don't remind me.
You had an awesome podcast. Before we get started, you had an awesome podcast with Michael DeGusta.
Well, you were there too.
Yeah, but I mean, you made it awesome. I was there trying to hold it down. About the F word, Android fragmentation, forking, iOS lack of flexibility. It was one of the best podcasts I've listened to in a long time, Phil.
Fork your fragmentation. Thanks. No, it was a really good discussion. I enjoyed being on there with Michael, and it was good to talk. I don't think we changed anything. And, there's still plenty of Android phones out there that need updates, but at the same time, there are plenty of Android phones out there that are getting updates. So,
are you telling me Sergey and Larry didn't call you immediately after the show to make amends?
We're going out for drinks later.
Okay, good.
Maybe a little light petting.
On that note, we apparently, Adam, tell me if I'm wrong, but Kevin Michalik was in Waterloo yesterday, and the last time he was in Waterloo, he ended up in RIM Security Holding. I have heard a rumor that he made an ill-guided attempt at Mission Impossibling a QNX superphone and is back in custody.
He did, as far as I know. I haven't heard from him. I got a call from a couple RIM people that just said he wasn't going to be around for a while, so I'm filling in until further notice. Hopefully he's all right, but if it's anything like last time, God only knows where he is, so hopefully it all turned out well.
Any truth to the rumor that they're torturing him by making him use a first edition Storm?
It's quite possible, but knowing Kevin, he probably wouldn't mind so much, being that he's such a big fanboy, so I don't think it would be the worst thing for him.
Awesome. And Derek, I'm glad you decided to come on the show, because when we invited you, you said that you would not yet come to a decision about whether you would be on the show or not.
Yeah, I've finally curled up from my ball of tears and uncurled and decided, I can come out and discuss the nothingness that is WebOS land right now. I need a hug.
All right, so Phil, I don't know. I don't know where we should start with you this week, because you once again have more devices out this week than any of us are going to see this year.
Take your pick. Hey, here's my new one. It's a Blackberry Playbook.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Might as well be. No, I got the Kindle Fire here, retail version. So we actually bought this one. I like it. It's nice.
Is the retail version different than the ship out to reviewers version?
I don't know. Didn't get that one, so we bought one instead.
Shame on Amazon.
No. That's kind of the way I like it. I like making sure we get what everybody else gets. No, it's nice. It very much looks and feels like the Playbook. Got a nice soft touch back. Screen's 7 inches. The UI that Amazon has put on here is decent enough. Very kind of scrolly, and you can just simple, right? So you got a little shelf with favorite stuff and little bookmarks up here on top to go do things. You got a web browser. Like it a lot. Really, really do. I've already rooted it. I've already put the Android market on it. I've already put other launchers on it. So I think we're going to be able to have a lot of fun with this.
You kind of joked about it, but it really is a BlackBerry Playbook body on top, running a forked version of Android. Does that make it neither here nor there, or does that make it the best of everything?
It's really in a weird in-between place. For a long time, I didn't want to call these e-readers tablets. This one, I think, was the first one where you can safely call it a tablet, because the specs are very much like the Playbook. So it has no buttons whatsoever, no capacitive buttons. That would be my dog. The only button we do have is the power button down here on the bottom. It's a tablet, and I'm very safe in calling this a tablet. But at the same time, we've got the Nook tablet coming out, and it's even more powerful and thinner. Not quite half the thickness of this, and this isn't small, but it's not the thickest thing in the world either.
Can I ask you a question about it? And this is what drove me nuts. And I, from past experience, I know it probably drove you nuts too. But the minute it was announced, the usual suspects started saying, "Oh, it's an iPad killer. It's the best thing ever. Amazon's going to take over the tablet market." Then they actually got it, and instead of a review, we got, "WTF? It sucks. It doesn't do everything that I, in my own mind, expected it to do that was never realistic to begin with, and then they started trashing it.
You got to ask yourself what you want it to do, and I haven't tried to make it do everything I can do on, say, the Galaxy Tab 10.1. I have a feeling it's going to do quite a bit of it. It's not going to output video the way that a dual-core Tegra 2 tablet does, or God forbid one of these new quad cores. It's not going to have gaming like you have on the iPad, but for reading books, for browsing the web, watching videos, okay. The Amazon streaming video, I'd prefer a slightly higher bit rate. But it's watchable. It's absolutely watchable, and chances are normal people won't even notice. I do, but that's me. No, I've actually pretty much enjoyed it. And I've been using it for 2 days now. For $200, versus $500 for an iPad, they're going to sell a lot of these.
You can get a touchpad for $200 though, right, Derek?
Yes. Actually, you could have gotten the touchpad.
You can get
for
playbooks next week.
You could get 2 touchpads for $200.
That's a good point. I mean, like, a lot of people went to the touchpad because it was on discount sale and it was much more than the Amazon Kindle. But now that is there any availability for that left anymore?
No, they're mostly gone. HP told us that they are done selling them directly, and they never actually did sell any of them directly from their second final run. Instead, they're using their leftover stockpile to push bottom rung HP laptops. Buy an HP laptop and get a touchpad for $150.
Okay.
Adam, how do you feel seeing the playbook body with someone else's head on it?
It's not bad. I mean, whatever makes the playbook better, I guess. But it's difficult. I mean, because it does. It's exactly the same thing. Sans Blackberry logo and the fun glowing emblem on the back. But it could go either way. It's mildly flattering that it's kind of modeled after the playbook. But because I personally love the size. I think I use my iPad still, but I think this is great. We've been through it many, many times. You can fit in your back pocket, carry it in your jacket, in your bag, and all that stuff. So it's a great size, but that the software is still lacking at this point, and we're not seeing anything new and exciting until next year sometime. So having a tablet e-reader, which, like Phil said, it's not an e-reader, it's more of a tablet, but just being able to run the software and the applications that everybody wants, I think it's great with the size and everything that's on it, for sure.
I guess my question then, Phil, is for whom would you recommend a Kindle Fire versus a more full-fledged, like a Galaxy Tab? Is it better for reading, or is a traditional Kindle better for that? Where is the sweet spot for this?
My grandparents already have one on order for Christmas.
So if you're Phil's grandparents...
Yeah, I think they know it's coming. It's a very nice kind of... I would call it a directed experience, right? You don't pick this thing up and wonder what to do. You pick it up and immediately see books. You pick it up and you say, all right, newsstand, books, music, video, docs, apps, web. I know what I can do with this when I pick it up. I know that I've got an Amazon store here to buy more stuff with. So I think Amazon has really given it purpose. And that's something I think maybe not most other tablets. I think the iPad gets away with it. But Android tablets are kind of lacking purpose right now because you pick it up and you're like, all right, what do I do with it? When you buy an iPad, you can do everything with it, right? You will find something. But with this, with the Kindle Fire, and to a lesser extent, or not a lesser extent, but a different extent, maybe the Nook tablet, which will be out this week too. You're getting something that's going to be reading books, right? Especially with the Kindle Fire, you're getting something that can do video. So it very directed. I want to say controlled, but not entirely controlled experience, because obviously we're already hacking on it and having fun. But you got a big video button. All right, I know I can go watch video. I know I can go rent videos. I know I can go buy videos. I don't have to worry about finding the apps. There's a big apps button. Very simple to do, and you're not left wondering at all.
So if for someone who doesn't need the full functionality of an expensive tablet, but wants easy access to content, doesn't read as well as a Kindle, doesn't play apps as well as an iPad, isn't as powerful as a Galaxy Tab, it's kind of the main... It's very much in the middle of all that, though. I wouldn't say it's not a full-fledged tablet, because I really do think it is. It's missing a lot of the traditional Android framework. So, you can easily just slap the Android market on there and, it's just an app. But without the framework to get your Google account into it, it's missing that whole side of the equation. Does that mean it doesn't have all that through Amazon? Absolutely not. Amazon's done an incredible job getting its app store, really built out. And that's here as well. And
will easily take you to the Amazon website to buy more stuff from Amazon. It's very much an entry into the Amazon ecosystem, which has really surprised me how well that's taken off.
See, the thing that still gets me is that, and when this came out, this is one of the bones that I had to pick with the media when they announced iTunes Match as well. It's like, this is out. No, it's only out if you're in America. And I know we've talked about this before, but so much of the music and media stuff is being launched US only, when we still see Apple making so much profit internationally. I have to think that these companies are going to eventually focus on widening their distribution.
I'm sure they would love to, but there's the whole negotiating with these content providers, and they're difficult. How long did it take for iTunes to go international with purchases?
It's still an ongoing process. They're still launching movies and music in more countries.
I think of all places, it might actually be easiest to negotiate that in the United States, or these companies are just less interested in actually doing it internationally. I don't know how much of a presence EMI has in Dubai.
That's a good, but in Canada, I'm sure, and I've said this before, Amazon kept saying we'd have MP3 in 2008, and I keep looking at my watch, and it's not 2008 by Amazon clock yet.
Yeah, Canada's just not a priority. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's America's hat. All right, so Phil, the other thing that we wanted to touch on was the Nexus. The Galaxy Nexus is nigh. Should everyone stop by? I listened to Jerry on Android Central. Should everyone stop buying every other Android phone and line up for this one now?
Yeah, we've been telling you that for weeks, right? So yeah, it's available in the UK today. US maybe next week. I'm hearing possibly Monday on Verizon. It looks like it's going to be a Verizon exclusive, at least for a little while, though you can import the GSM version. And the good news is if you import the GSM version, that you're going to get a pentaband phone, so it'll work on AT&T or T-Mobile. Yeah, at this point, it's probably the way to go. Although, yeah, it's probably the way to go. If you're at all worried about updates, if you're at all worried about just having the, latest and greatest, it's certainly what you need. And the camera's supposed to be really good. I still have not touched the thing. But, the camera, the shutter speed's supposed to be really good. Not, the bleeding edge of specs, but I'm okay with that. I don't need a quad-core phone, and we don't have quad-core phones.
That's actually a good discussion for all of us, because there was a little bit of a brouhaha on the interwebs about the importance of specs, and some people saying that you need to know how many cores, what megahertz, how many pixels, this and that, while other people saying that it's the human element, is how well it browses webs and plays games and listens to music that's more important. Do any of you guys have strong feelings one way or the other, or yes?
Specs are the supporting cast of the star, the user experience.
Right.
It takes everything coming together. Specs are important in that if you have a crappy processor and not a lot of RAM and not a lot of storage space, you're going to have a pitiful user experience. But if the user interface and the software and everything aren't taking advantage of those specs, it's still pointless. So really what matters is how it is to use the product instead of, what kind of horsepower is behind it. It's like saying that, comparing a tractor with a 500 horsepower engine to a Fiesta with a 120 horsepower engine. The Fiesta is still going to beat it in straight line distance because it does different things.
Yeah. Phil, do you think Derek is crazy?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, anyone who says
I am crazy.
Well, yeah. Anyone who says specs aren't important shouldn't be touching any of these devices, right? Because that's what makes the device what it is. It's not what makes it how you use it, and it's not what makes it how well you use, how easy it is to use. But, they absolutely are important, right? If you ignore the fact that, especially in Android, a phone that has 1 gigabyte of RAM is going to run better, at least more smoothly than a phone with half that, then you're totally missing the point. Now, does that make the entire experience? No, but it's certainly, and like Derek said, it supports it, right? It is the building blocks for the device you're using and the user experience of that device.
So I guess that's a really important point, because several times when we've spoken about the iOS stuff, we've talked about people bringing specs to a user experience fight, and for a while you could say that because other operating systems were still, putting out new versions, polishing things up. But Adam, when you look at something like BB7 devices. It was a huge jump when they went to the new processors. They even delayed their launch to get those new processors in there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big thing, and building on what Phil and Derek were saying there, it's, for me, I'm not going to say specs don't matter because Phil would not let me touch any devices, but, I think it still comes down to, how the device works because, you can have the biggest, baddest specs there are, but if you don't have that fluidity and the ease of use and everything runs well, it doesn't make a difference. And that, that's my feeling on a lot of the Blackberry devices that, the juice is there, but if it's still not running well, if you have a crappy OS, for lack of a better term, then it really doesn't make a difference how action-packed your device is in the first place.
Yeah, I can say from experience, I'm sure we all can, that specs do matter to a degree because I have two Palm devices here separated by a year. One has a 600 megahertz processor, the other 1.4. And the user experience on the 1.4 is much better because it can finally back up the software. But they're only useful for comparing not even necessarily on the same OS. They have to be the same OS version. Comparing a phone with a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor that's running Android 4.0 to one running a 1.5 gigahertz processor running Android 2.3 isn't a valid comparison when you say, well, this one has the better processor, therefore it's going to be the better user experience. It's like saying, well, the new iPhone has, the 4S has 512 megabytes of RAM.
Yeah.
And yet, I might say that it...
That's Jay joining us. In
Hi,
lieu
Jay.
of Dan.
Hey guys.
Jay?
We'll have Jay on camera in a second. He's here to stand up for Windows Phone because he believes that everything we've said so far to date has been a lie.
That's a lie. I'm a huge fan of Android tablets.
So, it's saying that...
Sorry, go on, Derek.
So the iPhone 4S has 512 megabytes of RAM, and it does perfectly fine. It is a fantastic user experience, whereas Android, 512 was good, but it hasn't gotten to that fantastic level until you got to 768 or a full gigabyte of RAM. So it all depends on the operating system and how it utilizes that hardware.
Yeah,
So it's circular. Specs factor into it, but you can't say that phone has a crappier processor, therefore I'm not going to buy it. It doesn't work that way.
Sure you can. Have you been to the Android Central forums lately?
That place scares me.
But it matters more on Android. It's a fair point. It does matter more on Android. It depends on the OS that you're going with.
You think, because Apple does seem to have the ability to get a lot of performance out of a small amount of specs, and I think RIM does to a degree too, because they control the whole stack. When you have people who have separate hardware and separate software, I think you do need to throw more specs at it because you have a much bigger target area for your device.
You can say that, but the whole controlling your stack thing didn't necessarily make for a good experience on WebOS.
But WebOS was such it was such a higher level programming language. Like you were trying to basically have run your own website on your phone.
Yeah,
and
my phone is a server,
and it just wasn't there yet. I mean,
it was ahead of its time in its hardware requirements. So, we finally got 1.4, and it's great. And they're actually working on overclocking this thing up to 2 gigahertz now, which is insane. I think the battery will last about 5 minutes when you do that. But it needed to, there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking on the word. Jedis, no.
Anger. Hatred.
There's a lot of work that it takes to render this HTML interface as compared to just going with straight native, which is why they made some changes like the launcher when they went to 2.0 became a native app because it just didn't perform well in HTML.
And they made the PDK so games would be able to write right to the middle.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do something like Need for Speed in HTML.
CSS shaders, Derek. CSS shaders.
Oh yeah. Those CSS transformations and inline video. Oh yeah.
But Adam,
if we can do a barrel roll with it, then we can make games with it.
Well, RIM showed off. I mean, we discussed this previously. It made me cry for Palm when RIM showed off WebGL, Adam, and everything that they actually had a 3D game playing.
Yeah, I mean, every time I think of the WebGL, I'm just flashed back to I don't remember what conference it was, but they basically I get mad at RIM, because they're like, here is this, and it's going to work on this and not on this, and it's just it's frustrating, but I don't know.
You're mad at RIM. We'll take it at that.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I love Blackberry to death, and it goes back to the whole spec thing. Like I just have trouble because it's like you gave me this bold 9900 and it's got these great specs on it, but give me some software that runs well. I still constantly see my hourglasses and stuff like that, and I don't think that should be the case. So it's just it's frustrating. It's good times and bad times.
So I guess moving along that line, one of the things that you sent us to talk about, Adam, was the Porsche designed BlackBerry. And
yes.
I'll throw it up in the video in just a minute, but this kind of led me to think, are we approaching the age of fashion design phones? Is Phil going to have to start reviewing the Tommy Hilfiger Androids? Is WebOS going to get bought by some haute couture company? Are they going to become big fashion objects?
I mean, I looked back. What was the LG Prada?
The
or
Prada,
wasn't it? Way back when.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
there've
the
been
first-
there have been 500s of those, right? I mean,
Yeah, but that was like the first thing I thought of. I mean, to me, Kevin is in love with the it's the P9981, I think it is, the Porsche design BlackBerry. He's in love with it. I mean, one of the things that I said, just the way I look at it, I feel like it's got so many sharp edges that I would like cut my fingers or something on it, but it's not very appealing to me, especially for the price tag.
Yeah.
And RIM says it comes with an exclusive pin, which is a 2AA pin, but when all is said and done, I doubt many of your BlackBerry Messenger contacts are going to recognize your exclusive pin or hold you in a different light because you have that device. But
Yeah, I looked at when I first saw the leaks of that phone, and people are wondering, what is this? Is this a prototype or something? It almost looked like it was a prototype phone, and
Yeah.
and that's how
we
it
thought
looks
in the
now.
beginning. I mean, Kevin and I were almost making fun of it when
if somebody
the
were to
first picture
say,
showed up.
you take a BlackBerry back to 1986 and tell them, design the smartphone of the future, and that's what they would have come up with.
Mm-hmm.
It feels new old or old new. I'm not really sure.
Like an old Braun product that Apple may copy.
Yeah, and what makes it unique? It has a fancy case and special icons and fonts. It does. I'm not sure it really enhances the BlackBerry experience. It also, and it's only being sold at the BlackBerry Experience stores or whatever they're called.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything different. It's like when it comes down to it, it's the bold 9900. A couple things are switched around hardware wise, but it's the same device. Different shell, different keyboard, and it has a Porsche theme to it. So the software is exactly the same, but it's got that Porsche font and
not the Porsche car company, because I was very confused by this.
I think that was a big issue. It's a Porsche Mobile, which is separate, but everybody always relates it thinking that it was actually designed by Porsche, the car company, which is not the case. But and as you saw there in the video, it does come with a fancy little stand for it, but it's not even. I was talking to Phil the other day, looking at all his review units come in these fancy boxes and safes, and you look at this and it's just in RIM's little black box, like you're buying this. I think it was rumored to be $2,000 or something like that. It should come in like this treasure chest, but it's still just hanging out in a little black box.
Gold-plated gold.
Yeah, but not really my thing. But I think Kevin's probably more in love with it now than he was a couple days ago, since he actually got to play with it. So,
and actually, Porsche design is at least partly related to Porsche, the car company. It was made by I think Ferdinand Porsche VII or something like that, descendant of Porsche, who made Porsche and actually designed the 911. But it's not actually associated with Porsche. But it's the same Porsche.
It's the same family.
It's the same family and the same design aesthetic,
but
though
there's no
strangely applied to mobile devices. I'm looking at this phone, and it's just weird. It looks like something you'd see on a sci-fi show with a user interface that doesn't really make any sense.
So Ashley from Girls Gone Gadgets is in the chat room saying it's hideous, while Kevin Michaluk, our fearless leader, is there saying he's going to make sweet, sweet blogger love to it. So we've got divergent opinions, to say the least.
I'll probably do a video of that in the process. It's interesting, though. I mean, Kevin there saying that the battery and the cleaning cloth and everything are Porsche branded too, which is, I guess it's good. But Kevin and I are very extreme in our views of a lot of things. I think like he was in love with BBM music originally, and I lasted for about 2 days, and I feel the same with this device. I think we had a little chat. He was at my house last week, and I was just, I don't see the allure of it in any way, shape, or form. But Kevin, being a fanboy that really is all excited.
What really kills the allure of this, as the guys at Mobile Syrup were reporting, that they think it's going to cost $2,000.
$2,500, I think they put in the chat.
It's not even encrusted in rubies.
Not even encrusted in John Rubinstein.
Ooh.
How can they possibly justify that?
Well, here's my question for you, Jay. Can you imagine, like, HTC has already gone all in on Beats, and Phil's getting Beats phones. You're going to get Beats phones. Imagine they let that was the thing. They're going to let Bono in the RIM lab to make a phone. Imagine they let Dr. Dre into the HTC lab to actually build his own phone. It's going to look like Homer Simpson's car.
It's just choosing the wrong people to be involved in any way, shape, or form. It's marketing spiel. And the sad thing is, we're talking about Beats, and really, if we're honest, Beats is just sort of a clever bit of EQ work. But just having that Dr. Dre and having that recognizable brand on it, it works. And you see countless people walking around with the Beats headphones on, and they could pay a little bit less for the same kind of quality, but they don't, because they think, there's a bit of guarantee.
They could pay a lot less. It could be 60 bucks instead of 200.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same situation. But some people will buy it, and some people will always pay the money for it. And Kev's obviously one of those people.
Yeah, Kevin is saying that he likes it because he'll be the only one who can afford it.
He's the only one dumb enough to use it too, I think.
You see, when he's not on the show, Adam gets mean.
It's fun when he's not around because it's no secret. He picks on me in private all the time, and then when we're on podcasts and everything, he always gets his shots in. So I feel like liberated because this is probably the first podcast I've been on in my Mobile Nations years without Kevin. So I feel like I got to get all my shots in while he can only come back in the chat room. So.
Yeah, I hope he might dial in though. We'll see.
So if I get a little crazy, then
Renee, edit all of this out.
Would you like us to just sit back and let you get on with it? I mean, if you
would, I could go on a rant for too long. I think it's best.
Yeah.
If you guys
I'll just say it, man.
Kevin says it's your last podcast too, Adam. So make it worthwhile.
No more Five Guys for Kevin either. Then Kevin made me take him to Five Guys twice when he was here in New Jersey.
Phil, we've seen like Android. There's been the screen size war, which reminds me of the megapixel war in cameras. Do you think there's? And while Samsung has gotten in trouble for making products, Apple would call Me Too, Motorola's really got a design aesthetic. I mean, some people have said it's Star Wars inspired, but it's really cool. Do you think we're going to have people pay as much attention to the hardware as they do to the interface going forward?
I would say Motorola's really done a nice job of iterating both consistently. In fact, Motorola has backed off what they did with kind of a crappy framework that was Blur. It's really gotten quite nice. At the same time, they still have troubles updating like everybody else, right? The more you change, the more you have to fix later. But really, I mean, look what they've done with the hardware. Now you have the Droid Razr, which I just sit on its merry way, and I'm a little sad to see it go. Meanwhile, and I love HTC phones, but we haven't seen that much in the design side from them in the past year, at least, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I think they came up with a new design style with most of the Windows phones that we've seen from them. Or I say not most, sorry, some of the Windows phones we've seen from them. Putting aside the Titans and the the Sensation XL that it is for Android. You look at like the Mozart when it was around, the sort of new design on the back end of it. It just granted, it's nothing radical, but at least they're going somewhere with it.
No, and it's nothing radical. And if you'd been using Android phones from them for the past 2 years, it's probably less of a stretch for me than it is for you. I absolutely do. But really, I mean, we haven't seen anything majorly different probably since the Nexus 1, I think. Since that 2 years ago, you had the original Desire, and that spurred the Incredible. The Evo was kind of the next big iteration, I think, and it's gone from there. Things have gotten bigger, and that's fine. But really, Motorola has, and you know what? You can probably say the same thing about Motorola. The Razr, is obviously born out of the Droid X line. Which is really good, and I really do enjoy that form factor. Some people don't. Some people think it's too big and too thin and just a weird shape. I don't know. I mean, we've asked this question a lot, right? At some point, I mean, these things have to be phones. They have to be slabs. They have to be, smartphones. You have to be able to use them, with your finger, right? So how much can you actually do that's different?
I think, say, Stephen in the chat room's put it perfectly. How many ways can you reinvent a touchscreen phone? What is there
Right,
that you can go with?
exactly.
And we can change the bezel slightly. Things can look a bit. I mean, Nokia are doing a relatively decent job with the N9/Lumia, but you can't go that many directions with it.
That's why we went to Siri. We gave up on the hardware and want to just talk to it now. But that's actually
Yeah, and that's working really well.
See, he's bitter because they get a man voice in the UK.
No, I'm bitter because the last time I saw Siri in action, it was my boss tried to dictate to the phone, "Tell my wife I'll be late," and it came up with, "Tell my wife ovulate."
That was an autocorrect. That wasn't wrong.
Woman, you will be pregnant.
Well, here's a question for you, Derek, because you're much in the same situation I am, in that your company just refuses to make a new design for a phone. I mean, we've gotten...
My company refuses to make phones.
I didn't want to go that far. But we've gotten 3 iPhone bodies in... Oh, I'm going to hold them up for a second. So in the 5 or 6 years that Apple has been making... let me just put this up so people can see it. In the 5 or 6 years that Apple's been making phones, we have gotten exactly, the original iPhone, gotten the 3G/3GS, and
Basically
the 4/4S. So I've gotten 3 actual physical hardware units out of Apple in 5, maybe going on 6 years. The Palm pre-line didn't really change. Like the Pre 3 is a bit bigger. The line didn't really change. You had your Veer and your Pixie thrown in there, but
the Veer was just a smaller Pre too.
Do you lament all the different kinds of hardware that people like Jay and Phil and even Adam get on a regular basis?
I would like a Slate. I don't know that I would want a Slate, but I would like for there to be a Slate option. But personally, I might just be set in my ways, but I've somewhat fallen in love with the portrait slider because I like my keyboard, and I like to be able to use it with one hand. I would like to see any form factors, really, out of HP. That would be fantastic.
Can you touch on, while we have you here, can you touch on
Sure.
the biggest meeting in history and tell us what that was about?
So there was an internal all-hands meeting called for the WebOS Global Business Unit at HP, and we had no clue really what was going to be said, and there were no press releases or anything on it. But we knew John Rubinstein was going to be there, even though he's not really in charge of WebOS anymore. We think we don't know who's in charge of WebOS anymore. They all left. And Meg Whitman, CEO of HP, was going to be there. Generally, the CEO shows up for a meeting with 500 people. Either she's a really classy gal and they're all being fired, or they have news. So we're thinking something's going to happen. We're going to finally have news. CEOs like to have good news, so she's showing up to deliver good news. You're being sold. You're being licensed. We're going to the moon. Something, anything. And instead we're told that, or instead we weren't told anything. We found out from people who were in the meeting that they are still trying to figure out what to do with WebOS because it's not entirely clear. And they'll take 3 to 4 weeks to figure out what exactly they're going to do, at which point they'll then tell us what they're going to do. But it actually seems like they might be leaning towards keeping WebOS within HP, which is would complete the greatest corporate reversal since New Coke.
Can we even call it a U-turn anymore? Because I swear they're just going in circles.
This is a holding pattern.
Hold, please.
They're trying to figure out what exactly to do, but the only thing that Meg Whitman could not undo from Leo Apotheker's reign, well, actually, there are 2 things. The acquisition of Autonomy, which was $10 billion swirling down the drain, and the stock price. She's doing what she can to influence the stock price, but she's already unspun off the PC division and looks to be close to uncanceling the WebOS products. But
Uncancelled. That's an awesome word.
there's one small caveat for those of us in the WebOS world. I'd say 2/3 of Pre-Central's users got into WebOS through their WebOS smartphones, their Pre's, and a couple of people, like 5 or 6, through Pixies and Veers. HP isn't necessarily interested in making smartphones in the short term, or maybe even the long term. And they want to do WebOS tablets exclusively instead of phones. So that makes me wonder something very important. Is it possible to have a tablet ecosystem without smartphones?
Yes.
Who's done it?
So, okay, granted, no one's done it, but I think it's absolutely possible. because I'd argue that most of the time when you want to use a tablet, you want a different experience to that which you get on the phone. And actually, Microsoft are about to do it, as we know, because it's not particularly clear whether or not apps written on Windows Phone will actually go across to Windows 8, even though we're going to get the same developer tools, the same basic principles will work. So that's actually what's going to happen. And potentially, half the reason I actually went with Android in the end is you want a full web experience on your tablet. You don't want to feel like you're losing anything. So it's perfectly possible to have the two separate. It's just you've got to have a really strong tablet platform for it to work.
We haven't told Jay about Flash being cancelled yet. Don't say anything.
I know Flash has been cancelled. We discussed it on the WP Central podcast. Thanks for listening.
I actually listened to the whole thing. I had no choice. That's interesting because a lot of people would argue that there still isn't really a tablet market. There's the iPad, maybe the Kindle series, and everything else is kind of fighting to try and find a market. And it's kind of scary, crazy to me, Derek, that because cell phones are still exploding, mobile is still exploding. It's got huge growth, and HP looks at that, kind of goes, meh, we're going all in on tablets.
Yeah, well, I think it's still exploding, but they have very established players, and Palm tried for 2 years to break into it and had significant difficulty. Now, we can all look back at that and point out exactly where their difficulties were. Advertising. But they...
Time to market.
They had difficulty with that, and right now I really like WebOS 2.1 or 2.2, excuse me, on my pre-3, but it still has flaws, and it's nowhere near being able to catch up with Android 4.0 and iOS 5, or even Windows Phone Mango. It's not there. They haven't been able to put what they need to into it to bring it up to the cutting, bleeding edge modern standards. So if they were to try to go back into smartphones again, they'd just be dumping millions of dollars into something that's never going to work.
Adam just took offense that you didn't mention BlackBerry 7 in your list.
You got everybody else. You didn't say anything about BlackBerry 7.
Right.
That's pretty accurate.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, it's okay. We're in the same boat, which is why you're going with QNX.
That's right.
Yeah, you're going with QNX or BBX. Yeah, whatever. That's why you're going with BBX to bring your smartphones up to that modern standard. That's why Palm went with WebOS instead of trying to make Palm OS 6, because they tried that and it was crap and didn't go anywhere. So I think what's probably going to happen is if they really can stick with the tablet thing and make it work, we're going to go sort of the Android route and have, we have WebOS 3.0 on the touchpad here, and maybe eventually we'll be able to get to WebOS 4.0, which will bridge the gap like Ice Cream Sandwich does and give us WebOS.
I'm hitting an Inception on the screen. I see Derek inside Derek inside Derek.
We'll see WebOS in the same version across phones and tablets, because right now we do have some actually pretty significant fragmentation going on in that regard.
F-word. Adam, you kind of went through the same thing where RIM put out the playbook with BBX before they put out any phones, and people still debate whether they should have waited on the playbook and done the phones first.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess you could argue it either way. It's a great operating system, but still, I mean, the phones are so far off. But
they need dual core processors. Those aren't out yet.
Exactly. I guess you could you could go either way on it. It's just there's no ecosystem really. I mean, the apps are so lacking. I've said it over and over again. It's like I don't find the motivation to want to go after that BBX phone for the people that want the app side of it, because if the apps aren't there on the playbook, which runs the same software, they're not going to be there when the phones come out. So you're still going to have to wait that much longer. But I think it would have been a good move to put it on the phones first and then gone to the tablet from there, because RIM's just had issues back and forth with everything. And now last week or the week before, they announced that they're not releasing the the huge update with the native email, calendar, contacts, and all that until February, which is just a big shock. It's not unlike RIM to postpone things for months and months, but it's very unlike them to actually say that they're not going to release it until 4 months from now. So
they're copying Apple again. Apple delayed my new phone by 6 months, so RIM just had to do it to you too. It's so predictable.
It must be I don't know. It's terrible.
Maybe they're busy upgrading the infrastructure to make sure they can handle it.
Sort of the last thing I wanted to touch on, and it kind of circles back to most of us here. Derek never got his music synergy, so I'll just let him snark from the sidelines on this one. But Phil, Google is kind of going... Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that Google announces so much stuff, so many things, that you never can tell what they actually care about, are going to focus on, and make terrific versus stuff like Wave that's going to disappear in a couple months. Right. So I need you to tell me, are they all in on music, and what is the big new deal about Google Music? Because I have iTunes Match now. I want to know about music.
So we've had Google Music for half the year or so. They first announced it back at Google I/O in May, and came out in beta after that, right? And so the way it initially worked was you couldn't actually buy music from Google, but you could upload music you already have, and then it will stream down to your phone, and then you can save it to your phone if you want, or a tablet or whatever. So now they've got 3 of the 4 major U.S. labels on board, or not U.S. labels, but 3 of the 4 major labels on board. A whole bunch of indie labels, something like 1,000, more than 1,000 total. And a whole bunch of music, a whole bunch of exclusive music. They're giving away a free song a day. So, I mean, people are looking for this to be a, quote, iTunes killer. And anytime somebody says the word killer in a headline, you can pretty much ignore what they've written, I think. Is it a good start? Yeah. Is it something Google should do? Yeah. I think every major platform needs to have a music store. Needs to have some sort of alternative to iTunes. I still hate iTunes with a passion. I think it's a bad user experience.
It's revenge for Office Mac, Phil.
It really is. I still think Microsoft probably has the best music user experience out there. I still love Zune Pass. I still use it, at least once a week. But it's good to see Google doing it.
That's a question I wanted to ask. Because I'm guessing with the Kindle Fire, for example, you've got the Amazon MP3 store, because that's quite effective too.
Yeah. No, Amazon's on there. It's good. It looks good. It's got all my music, and Amazon works the same way, right? In fact, Amazon was first. So all the music that I uploaded to my Amazon, what do they call it? Amazon Music Cloud or whatever it is. Forget the name of it.
Cloud Locker. Cloud Player.
Yeah, Cloud Player is already here on the tablet when I signed in.
Okay,
very, very simple, very easy.
You bought 2 of them, and they both came pre-signed in as you.
Yeah, well, and admittedly, I'm. Yeah, well, and I'm new to the Kindle system, right? So apparently, this is the way they've been doing it for Kindles for a long time, and I can't believe nobody's complained loudly before.
It was just your books, then now it's your movies and your TV shows, and your music.
Look, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but yeah. So, they scan the thing or whatever, and when you first have internet access with this thing, it says, "All right, hang on a sec. Oh, hey, it's you, Phil. Cool. We'll sign you in," and that's fine. I'm not crazy about somebody signing in with my username and password. Sorry. Just don't think it's a good idea. Those things exist for a reason. I should be the one to enter them. From a user experience standpoint, it was awesome, right? You just plug the thing in and go. But I don't like the principle of it. See, and apparently it's not new. It's new to me, but I'd prefer not to see it.
Apple won't ship you the iPad or anything with your credentials, but if you go buy it at a store, they will very nicely ask you for them and then help you enter them into the device before you leave so that you can buy your apps when you get home.
See, I have a big beef with Amazon as it is. My original Amazon account that I had for years and years, I got an email, 2-3 years ago, and it said it was being inspected for suspicious third-party activity or something like that. And we go down the line, but they basically just locked my account. I had no way to access it. There was no way to get it reactivated. So I essentially had to start a new account, and they wouldn't let me transfer anything over. So I had to use some dummy email address that wasn't the original email address. So I lost all my books and my purchase history and everything. And so my whole other Amazon identity just disappeared, and they could never recover it. So I have a long-standing beef with Amazon. So
watch out, Amazon. Adam's after you.
I don't know if that pertains to this conversation at all. I just wanted to get that out
So
there.
just by way of contrast, Phil, maybe we can compare a little bit. With iTunes Plus, it costs $25 a year. All the songs on my computer, which I legitimately ripped from a CD, will be scanned by iTunes. And if iTunes has it in their massive catalog, they will auto-magically give me a 256-bit copy of that song from the iTunes catalog with all the metadata and artwork.
Sorry, 256. You said?
Yeah, you can make fun of that in a minute. If they don't have it, if it's one of my extensive Japanese anime theme song renditions, then it will upload from my computer to iTunes. So you get the parallelism of them having the iTunes songs already. You only have to upload a little portion of your music. But that remains the same quality. The only confusing part for me is once you upload it, it becomes available on all your devices, but you can't really stream. You can play as you're downloading it to your device. You can then delete it from your device and re-download it when you want to. If you delete it from iTunes on your computer, it'll offer to delete it from iCloud, which will delete it from the devices, but not your PCs, because you might want to re-upload from them. And that's when it starts to become
no fun at all.
It sounds un-Apple-like to me. I'm wondering how much they had to bend over to the music labels to get the service running, and how much of that... How different is the Google Music from that?
It's fairly similar. Music that you upload, and think back, people made a big deal about you having to upload all your music as opposed to iTunes Match, where it scans your library and then matches it. It took a couple days for me to upload. I think I did my entire collection. I might not have. I don't remember. But it was a little slow and painful, right? But once it was done, and that's the way it is. I understand complaining about that on principle, but at the same time, I don't think it's a deal killer. I would probably prefer Match. Look, we've got 320 kilobit a second streaming. How about that? That's why I was jokingly
320.
320.
What?
It goes to 11. And then the big thing that Google did, so any music that you share with anybody, if you share it on Google Plus, that's cool. If you're not on Google Plus, you can share it with somebody over email. They get to listen to that entire song or that entire album, if that's what you've shared, one time for free. So that's kind of cool. My question, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to start using this more, or if I'm going to keep using Zune, excuse me.
So what is going on, Jay? What is going on with Zune? Because Microsoft is canceling the hardware, which they never actually bothered to make very large, widespread anyway. Is that going to just be a music brand? Are they going to keep developing that? What's going to happen?
So the service is going to stick around, and it's going to be the idea is Zune is sort of falling into their category of 3 screens for everything. Of it's on your device, it's on your phone, it's on your Xbox, it's on your PC or tablet if you go with the Windows 8 tablet. So it's going to become their streaming service. I'd actually be quite surprised if Windows Media Player still exists in a Windows 8 world. I think everything will. Well, I'm hoping everything will move over to Zune because it's just a better interface. But would I choose? I mean, I still don't know if I would choose Zune over Google, because we've lost the whole free 10 songs.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, is the service has changed. The service itself has changed a lot this year. I'm grandfathered in, so I still get 10 free songs a month. I don't even know what the pricing is anymore. Right. Yeah. So that was a big thing for me. So I get 10 free songs a month, so I can get basically one free record a month for $2-3.
But we have Ping. We have Ping. I tell you.
Ooh. Okay.
Because that's such a good piece of service that.
Yeah, Apple is widely known and respected for their social networks.
Oh, definitely.
Adam, is BB Music gaining traction? I know you and Kevin spoke about it before, and then it was in beta. Is it taking the world by Kindle Fire?
No, I don't. I think it's still, it's definitely a pretty deep underdog at this point. It's not a huge selling point for consumers. I don't even know if it's not pre-installed on any of the new devices. It's still, I think on our last podcast we talked about it. Kevin had asked what would make it stand apart from other streaming music services like Slacker and Pandora and such. But it's difficult because, your average consumer doesn't really know that BBM Music exists. I think most of the newer devices still come pre-installed with Slacker. And people know the Slacker name. They know Pandora. I think a lot of people know Spotify now. So BBM Music, I don't think is a big selling point, because a lot of those others you can do for free. With limitations, BBM Music is, I think it's $4.99 a month. And it works way different. You get your 50 songs that you can pick, and then the more friends you get, the more songs you get. But it hasn't caught on yet, I don't think. And if it does, it's going to take quite a while.
So you get all of Kevin's Gordon Lightfoot collection.
Yeah, it's difficult. Because if your friends have really crappy taste in music, then you're kind of just hung out to dry, and you're stuck with your 50 songs. It's good, because you can discover new music in a sense, but if you're friends with Kevin, then you get a lot of Gordon Lightfoot and Bieber and Mariah Carey and stuff like that. And it's terrible. It's terrible.
Don't forget the Celine.
Or you listen to Pumped Up Kicks 50 times a day. It's
a good song. This is the thing. There's loads of in how many music services have we got now? Sort of social services. The one that I always use as the benchmark was Last FM, because that was huge over here. And I think it was over there. It's Pandora is one of the big streaming services for you guys.
Slacker. I know everyone wants a piece of this, right? I mean, and we'll get to Derek in a second, but I mean, Facebook, MySpace was big on music. Facebook wants to be. Derek, we were supposed to get this magical WebOS music synergy thing, which would as elegantly handle all of our music sources as Synergy handles all of your personal information sources. Since I'm guessing that's like Meg Whitman is on the carrier there going wave off for that amongst everything else. Where do you go for your music now?
I
you wander the
over
streets of
USB.
music.
Honestly, the music that I listen to is just straight loaded on via USB. I don't do much streaming music because I have very specific tastes.
You can still go onto a service and just pick up one that lets you download.
I did that for like Pandora. Well, if I've got it and I don't need to stream it. I tried that with Pandora and I ran out of you can skip this 7 days in a week. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working. So I tend to just yodel in my car. And that gets me by.
I'd pay to record and listen to that.
Yeah, we're actually going to do a WebOS yodeling podcast eventually.
Yes.
It'll be amazing.
It'll be the
Mobile
equivalent
Nation
of all the
Sing the
ringtones
Blues.
podcasts out there, but for yodeling.
I can get my guitar now if we want. I just
Ooh,
So
yodeling
Phil,
guitar.
a big picture.
Accent and a guitar, huh?
Where are we now with all these music services? Do people just have to walk through the jungle and try to find what suits them, or is there any sort of logic or recommendations you can make?
Well, the way you'd go with it is surely it's a case of you pick the one which has got the most music for you and the level of quality that you're looking for. So Spotify is probably the biggest one over here because it's just got a huge library and everyone finds it easy and it integrates with Last FM. So you've got all these options and it's a case of you just pick whichever one makes the most sense for your region, surely. I mean, Zune is admittedly, the only reason I chose it is because the fact that I can get it straight onto my phone. I'm honestly not sure if I'd have gone with it otherwise. I love the integration with the devices that I use, but otherwise it's not the best option. And 192, which I think is the bitrate that we get, is not particularly great.
I think it varies quite a bit too. I mean, I was a big Pandora user for quite a while, because I have kind of like Derek. I mean, I have specific tastes. I don't know if they're as specific as his, but I like to discover the new music and not necessarily listen to the same thing over and over again. And I started using Spotify, and I actually found myself getting tired of having to think of songs and search for songs or look at what my friends were listening to. And I kind of wanted like a Pandora-ish option in Spotify that I could just, pick a couple songs to play and then it would just play, the recommended songs. But at the same time, I can't really get into being able to use them on my mobile device because I think the only app that we have is Pandora and Slacker, and they're not the greatest, but we're getting there someday. Good thing I don't like to listen to music on my phone.
But like Phil, if you're not at your mom, because your mom is informed by you, so your mom, she already has an Android, she's dialed in. But if a generic sort of mainstream user was looking to get into music, I'm not sure where to point them right now.
No, neither am I.
Spotify.
Because he's the guy from the UK.
Yep. It's very easy if you're in the UK. Spotify is pretty much the best way of going, and avoid iTunes like the plague.
Hate. Such hate. Where would you
It's
tell
not
me?
hate. It's just user experience.
Well, so I'm going to defend iTunes, and I can't believe you bastards are making me do that. The thing with iTunes...
We've got it, guys. We've got it.
So there's a couple things to remember with iTunes. One is that iTunes is doing a lot, and it's doing a lot because it's one of the only programs Apple ports to Windows. So in order to make that as sane as possible, because Windows doesn't have the Mac's core audio, core image, all of this, it has to bundle everything together, much the same way Microsoft has to bundle DLLs when they make Mac software. So they make one monstrous program, and it forces sort of a worse user experience on Apple and on Microsoft. It also comes from an era where the big sidebar database spreadsheet program was sort of in vogue, and they've never taken the step to redesign that. Hopefully that is in the play, that's somewhere in the playbook. And for years, iTunes was at the cutting edge of what you could do, smart playlists, all sorts of things. I think the problem, much like with Windows Mobile and Palm OS, is that people have not only caught up, but they've got new code bases with new design ideas and fresh takes on the software. And now Apple ends up looking like the old, stodgy, slow, player in the market. And I don't know if iCloud and moving everything like as Phil says, to the internet is going to fix it for Apple. But I think that iTunes is increasingly going to be left behind if they don't do something radical.
I think you're absolutely right, and as you say, it's sadly, as much as user experience is a little bit clunky, it does work, and we've got to admire that. If it is something which is, as you say, ported between so many different OSs, it works fantastic, and the store works. And I know a lot of people who use it, and bad user experience or not, they would never go anywhere else. So I shouldn't. I'd make it. I wasn't bashing it. It's just quite fun to hear you defend it.
Well, it's not a full-throated defense by any means. It does so much. It does so much okay. It's sort of like, you have to be impressed that Windows boots up on 8 gazillion different hardware configurations every day. Whether you love Microsoft or not, it's impressive that they can do that. And Apple can make iTunes sync your iPhone, manage your music collection, talk to your Apple TV. For all I know, it can make you waffles in the morning. But when you have so much going on in one program, it ends up not doing any one thing well. And I think that they really have to reinvent just the shopping experience is okay. You can shop for stuff in iTunes fairly well, especially if you're used to it. Arguably, it's still one of the easiest places to find your music, but I think they're going to have to respond to Google's music eventually.
I think iTunes needs to be broken up. It's trying to do too many things, and Apple doesn't do that. Yeah, you go to you pick up an iPhone, and there is the iTunes Store, and there is music.
Yeah,
they're separate apps, and they work differently. And iTunes is a music player, a video player, a podcast player, a podcast syncer, a syncer with your phones. It's a movie store. It's a TV store. It's a music store. It's doing too many things. It might actually make waffles, and I like waffles, but iTunes shouldn't be making waffles.
Yes.
It needs to be broken out. They just need something, something that just sits in the background. Now that you can sync over Wi-Fi, why do I need iTunes to handle the syncing anymore? It should just be seamless behind the scenes. Don't even think about it.
And that's exactly right. They've been doing that with iOS for a while. In fact, iOS 5 actually broke the iPod app up on iPhone, and now you have a separate video and audio app. Now it's called Video and Music, which it always confusingly was on the iPod Touch. I think Apple, because they don't do they don't release big betas all the time. iTunes Match had one, but normally they don't give you much of a roadmap. They might very well have a music event next September and go, "Here's the all-new iTunes X." And
it plays music, and that's it.
Yeah, because iTunes, people have said that for a long time. iTunes is a completely wrong name for what that application does. Anyway, there's very little left to do with tunes on that thing.
It's
just, it is iX.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, iControl.
All right, guys. As much as I wish we could keep talking forever, as much as I wish we could make this a 2-hour WP Central podcast, Jay,
you can't blame me for that. We have a lot to talk about.
You just wish it was longer because Kevin's not here?
We're going to hold the line. Phil Nickinson, sir, where can we find out more about you?
I am at Android Central, at Phil Nickinson on Twitter, Phil Nickinson on Google+. I'm everywhere.
Just look for Phil Nickinson, and he will be there.
Do you exist in real life?
Shine a
You're
light
in the virtual space.
Sky. I don't know.
And the Android Central podcast, which is coming later on today.
Yes.
Awesome. Adam Zeiss, how about you?
I'm on crackberry.com, Twitter at azeiss, and about me/Adam.
And Kevin is threatening to do another Crackberry podcast sometime soon.
That's probably threatening to do it without me.
Yeah, you're in the penalty box with Chris and with Craig, aren't you?
Yeah, Kevin's solo podcast, I think.
Derek, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DKDSGN, on PreCentral just about pretty much all the time. I write as Derek Kessler because that's my name. I'm also on Google Plus somewhere, not posting anything. And you can find me in the Matrix.
Oh, sweet. Jay, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at JAYT Bennett. That's 2 N's, 2 T's. And basically anywhere around WP Central, leaving comments and developing things. That's pretty much my life.
You can find me at Rene Ritchie on Twitter. You can find me Rene Ritchie on Google Plus if you want to get plussy with it. You can find all of us at Mobile Nations. You can email us at podcast@mobilenations.com, or you can leave a comment on the site when the show goes live. We are here pretty much every second week talking cross-platform, cross-industry, big picture stuff, and mostly just telling each other that the other person is wrong. One of the people over there. You can subscribe to us in iTunes if you haven't already, and please leave a rating. It lets iTunes know to feature us so that more people can find us. You can subscribe to us in Zune, and we're going to get the video feed up in Zune as well, hopefully fairly soon. You can go to YouTube, YouTube/MobileNations to get all of our podcasts going up in 720p now. And for everything in general, just go to mobilenations.com/shows. We have, I think, 14, 15 more shows on the way. We're going to have as many shows as Phil has Android devices if it kills me.
It's going to kill you.
Yes, I know. Have a good week, everybody. Phil, Adam, Derek, Jay, thank you so much for joining us.
Later.
See you.
Peace.